Welcome to another edition of Super 7, a show where we ask a current or former rider to tell us his dream team, his ultimate 1 to 7, his Super 7. My name is John McGilvray.
And I'm Liam Rudden. And as John said, we've all got our dream teams. We all have the riders that we've put together in our head as a team. And today we are joined by, all the way from across the world, by one of the great characters of Speedway, who'll be sharing with us his dream team, whether it be a childhood hero, whether it's somebody he's raced with, or whether it's a legend of the track. So to find out, without further ado, who it is, let's join John.
Yeah, thanks, Liam. We have a man who was a 4-time South Australian champion, a Scottish Open winner, and a 2-time Premier League pairs champion. As Liam said, he's definitely one of the characters of the sport, and we're delighted to be joined by Shane Parker. Shane, thank you for joining us on Super 7.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks. How's life? Obviously, Liam said you're back over in Australia. How's life over there?
Not too bad. I've had a few health issues of late, and a few other things have gone on, but all in all, not too bad. I'm pretty lucky to be here, so every day is a special day from now on. I had a bit of a close call. I had a cardiac arrest almost 18 months ago. I dropped dead for 18 minutes, and my daughter and give me CPR, and wife got the ambulance there, and pretty lucky to survive. So yeah, all good.
Yeah, I saw quite a bit about that on the social media when it happened, Shane, and you gave us all a real fright. So don't do that again, all right? But it was amazing, the story, when I read about what your daughter did and all that sort of stuff. And you know, it's a real miracle in my eyes, and we're delighted that you've come through the other side of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the survival rate of a cardiac arrest is only like 10%. So in that regard, I'm pretty lucky. I did have a heart attack in 2008 when I was in the UK racing. I was injured at the time, and I was lucky to survive that. So there's two pretty close calls. But I was back on the bike and racing 2 months after my heart attack in the UK. It's just something I kept very quiet.
Shane, is it something that changes your outlook on life, changes the way you look at
it? Yeah, 100%. You see things in a different light, or different aspect of a few different things, and I think you cherish a few more things than what you used to.
And how's life over in Australia just now? How are you coping with everything that's been going on with the COVID situation?
Yeah, we're pretty lucky here in Australia. It's thank God we're an island that's not easy to get to. I think we had one case pop up yesterday in SA, which was a return nurse from Victoria, which is in quarantine. So fingers crossed there's no risk of getting out. But at the moment, we have no restrictions pretty much in SA. So we've been lucky. One bit of bad news was my father-in-law passed away last Saturday. So that was a shame. He'd had a heart transplant in 1992 or 93, I think it was, in Papworth in the UK. And he survived a lot of years, 28 years, I think it was. Unfortunately, we've got his funeral coming up this Tuesday.
Well, condolences, Shane, from everybody here to the family. Yes, Shane, you've got a very popular rider at number 1. Can you tell us who it is?
Darcy Ward, a rider whose career got cut short, unfortunately, and I think most people would have liked to have seen his full potential fulfilled and see how much he could have gone on to achieve in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the story of Darcy Ward brings home just how dangerous a sport it is. Is that something that you can afford to think about when you're actually racing?
No, definitely not. It's something you've got to put in the back of your mind. It's not a good thing to think about even at the races. We always know that the risk is there of getting injured and hurt. If we didn't realise the risk, we wouldn't compete in the sport. So it's the bad side of the sport, I guess you could say. And, you know, there's a lot of top riders that have been injured and a lot of younger and lesser riders that have been injured. It's the sad side of our sport, unfortunately, but it is a part of it.
Yeah, I watched a thing on I think it's social media the other week there, and it was Darcy Ward's top 5 races in the Speedway Grand Prix, and some of the passes, and it wasn't just an out round the boards. He was cutting back. There was one, I think it may have been Saifutinov or something. He's inside, he's outside. You know, he had all the attributes to be a world champion. It's just such a shame he never got there. Did you work with Darcy at any point? Did you race with Darcy at any point?
I raced against him a few times, not a lot. The last year I was over there, I was giving Chris Holder a hand in the Grand Prix. And we're at the Gorjov Grand Prix, and the following day was a World Under 21. I think it was the second round of a World Under 21 at Gniezno, I believe. I think it was. And so I filled out the program for Darcy, and needless to say, we'd had a big night the night before after the Grand Prix, and I remember maybe dragging him out by the ear hole at about 4 o'clock in the morning and said, "You got to get to bed, mate." And we turned up at Gniezno, and he had his head in his hands, not feeling the best for himself most of the day. But his first race, he was in second place for 2 laps, got past the guy in front after the second lap, and broke the track record. So he was a very special rider.
So there's something to be said about different types of pre-match rituals then, yeah?
Yeah, possibly. You could say that. I mean, Darcy was special. He could get speed where nobody could get speed. He would be last out of the start and first out of the second bend. You know, it's amazing how and where he could get grip from on a bike.
Shane, is that something that's instinctive? Is that something that you can't teach?
You can work on it. You can practice on it. I think with Darcy, it was all just very natural. He had a lot of natural ability, which sort of went hand in hand with the way he rode and his setup. And yeah, great to watch. I'm just so disappointed for him that he couldn't have gone on to achieve more.
But your number 2, Shane, I think it's probably been many a year since this man was dragged by the ear out of a nightclub at 4 in the morning. But we go to the other side of the world, and a former 4-time world champion. Who do you have at number 2?
Well, I have got a picture of this guy giving my daughter a bottle of beer when my daughter was probably about 1 year old, and he is Greg Hancock. Yeah, we had a Halloween party, and obviously we're having a few beers at the Halloween party, and I think he tried to make it look like my daughter was drinking the beer. So that's one we've always held against Greg. But one of the ultimate professionals, Greg, 4 world championships. He is a great ambassador of the sport. He's got all the time in the world for supporters and sponsors and fans. He was, after the Grand Prix, he'd be there till 2 o'clock in the morning signing autographs, you know, and he wouldn't get changed until the last one was signed. So great ambassador for the sport, and what more can you say about him?
I was reading about Greg, Shane, and he holds something like 56 honours in his career, you know, championships and medals and what have you, which is a phenomenal amount. What would he bring to your 1 to 7 as a rider, as a teammate? What is it that he would bring to the pits?
Greg was always, him and Billy were always great team riders. I'd never team rode with Greg personally, but I would put him up there with you know, a handful of the top team riders. What else did he bring to? I mean, as far as the captain goes, you know, he could give us all talk, give you all the team talk, and I'm sure everybody would listen to him. So much knowledge with Greg. He's done a lot of testing. Probably tested far more than most people have this, well, I wouldn't say modern era now, sort of old school era, I guess you could call it. But yeah, he's never stops, Greg, always want to improve. And I mean, look, at 49 years of age, who can ride a Speedway bike like that, really? Come on.
Yeah.
What do you think his secret is behind the longevity of his career?
He must have a good missus behind him to keep him youthful.
We shouldn't have expected any other answer, Liam.
No, I know. Okay, we're going to go to
the back, didn't he?
Sorry, say again.
I said Greg liked coming from the back, didn't he?
Okay, we're going to go to number 3. We've got a World Under 21 champ He was a British champion as well, following in his father's footsteps. Who have you got at number 3, Shane?
My teammate for my first 5 years in the UK, Chris Louis. So I got to put Chris Louis up there as one of the best team riders as well. Me and him got quite a few 5-1s together. Chris was always had good setup, good bikes, great mechanic behind him in Nigel Wells. Had the knowledge of his dad as well, you know. Finished 3rd in the World Championship and team manager for quite a lot of years. I think Chris sort of started at Hackney and went to Ipswich, and I admired Chris. He was always such a good starter. Another thing with Chris too was that he came across very well with Sky Sports as a commentator and interviewer.
Yeah, how important was it having someone like Chris? So, you know, you say you rode with him for the first 5 years. When you come over to the UK, finding someone like that you can bond with, that you can ride with, you know, as a good team rider, and helping your progression in the sport.
It was very important. When I first came to the UK, I had 4 clubs that were chasing me. So I was pretty lucky in the fact that I could have I did choose where I wanted to go. Wimbledon were pushing very, very hard, and Dave Lanning wanted me to go there. The reason I went to Ipswich was, one, John Louis, ex-rider, team manager, and also, you know, he had his son in the team. So that was sort of the main reason I ended up at Ipswich at the end of the day.
Shane, you became known yourself for your own team riding and being a master of that art. Did Chris teach you any of that, or were there riders that actually sort of like helped you hone that skill?
Growing up here in South Australia, Junior Speedway, Sidewinders, we used to have a lot of teams events and pairs events. So I started team riding from a young age. I started Junior Speedway at 10 years old. So from 10 to 16, I was riding in teams events. Like the UK, we had the Lions, the Vikings, the Eagles, and one other team down there. I can't remember what it was, but you know, you'd always have pairs events too. We'd have state pairs events, and I guess I learned to team ride back then as a youngster, but going over there, I had the idea of what you had to do and how it all worked, and me and Chris Louis clicked as a great pair. I was at number 2 and he was at number 1 for quite a while, and I'd like to see some stats and work out, you know, how many 5-1s and what the best. I know James Greaves was up there. I got plenty of 5-1s with Greavesy when I was at Glasgow. So it's just facts and figures, I guess, and things you kind of remember.
And the riders that you team ride with, is there a sort of unwritten connection between them? I take it you both just have to know where you are on the track.
Yes, some there are, and some team riders, you know, you've got to watch out for because they'll put you in the fence regardless. And that's just the...
So you've rode with Nicky Pedersen then, yeah?
Yeah, well, Mr. Fisher was pretty good at doing that to his teammates as well. But no, I don't know. You get safe riders that are aware of other riders around them, and then you get your Nickies that just have got no respect for any other rider on the track. It's different maybe if it's your teammate and your pairs riding. You can always close the door on the opposition. You know, that's part of pairs riding and team riding. But you've sort of got to do it to a degree that you don't completely stuff somebody. You know, I remember Dave McCallum getting injured at Glasgow. Just a little bit too far, you know, but that's racing.
So we're off to Sweden for number 4. We've got a 2-time Swedish champ, a world pairs champ, and a 2-time World Cup team or World Team Cup winner. And a bit of a drinker by the looks of it as well. Who have we got at number 4? Losing my track, yeah.
Henke Gustafsson. He was a rider, I believe, that had so much natural ability, and he should have went on and achieved a lot more. Probably a lot like Joe Screen. I think Screeny should have achieved more too. But yeah, no, Henke was, he had, I loved Henke's style. He was always a racer, and he did like a drink or two. I remember him one night being sick over the edge of a chair and getting up and going to Denmark the next morning and scoring a 15-point maximum. So some people can do it, some people can't.
I'm loving this other side of Speedway that we don't really see often, Liam.
which is a good thing.
Well, it's sounding very old school to me, John. Very old school indeed.
Can't wait for Nigel and Kelvin to start commentating on this part of it.
I mean, that could be quite funny, that, couldn't it? Eh? Classic moments of Speedway.
So, Henk, obviously, you know, you're talking about how he's clearly a bit of a character and things like that. Yourself, Shane, I always regarded you as a character of the sport as well. Do you think that's something that's maybe a wee bit lacking just now?
Yeah, the sport's gotten more and more and more professional. So I understand why it's gone the way it is, and there ain't many characters in the sport. The money's a lot more than it used to be, I think, now for riding. So you've got to take it more professional. Guys have mechanics and teams in different countries, and that's just the way it goes now, I think. So it's a sign of the times, but you know, it's probably a good thing that it's moved in that direction, I think.
I think is a sad thing as well, because we miss this almost like the pantomime of Speedway. You know, when you win a race and you have that little bit of banter with, shall we say, with the opposition fans as you come round and all the rest of it. It was all part of the meeting and the atmosphere.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we get paid to ride, and if it weren't for the fans and supporters paying to watch us ride, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So they need to be entertained, and that was the way I always looked at it. I always said I would prefer to go to a meeting and get cheered or booed rather than get no reaction, because you're not putting on a show. So I got a lot of boos over the time, which was all good. You know, it's all part of it. And I made sure when I went back that I'd give more boos. You know, it's hey, people used to come back to watch me, and there was a group of the Boo Boys at Edinburgh. They would boo me every single meeting, and I'd give them gestures back and wah wah wah. And right at the end of my career, they all come up to me and had a big chat with me and said, like, they loved it, it was great, and they were getting involved, and that's what it's all about. You know, it's not just being there; it's being involved in it.
I think Liam would probably like to take this opportunity to apologise for being one of those boo boys. Is that right, Liam?
Yeah, I think he might have been right.
He was right at the front of the fence.
That's all. But I remember going to Newport, and there was some guy hanging over the fence, and he was giving me all this abuse and wah wah wah, and I was giving it back to him, but he bent down below the fence, and I couldn't see him. And I kind of looked, and he stood back up, and he's got this big rock in his hand. I thought, oh shit, time to leave. Whoop, and took off. Almost.
Yeah, maybe it goes a wee bit too far.
Yeah. Shane, we're going to stay in Sweden for your number 5. We have a man who became a FIM legend in 2011 and a 6 times world champion. Who's your number 5?
Well, that only leaves 2 people, and one of them isn't Swedish. So that's big Mr. Tony Rickardson. His first year in the UK was my second year in the UK. We both rode Ripswich together, so I got to know Tony really well. I had workshop around at his place. We'd go play golf, and you know, it was great to see him go on and equal Ivan Major's record of 6 world titles. And it's going to be pretty hard to equal or even beat. You know, and Greg got close with 4, but all these years of Speedway, it's only been them 2 guys that have set the mark.
Shane, as Speedway becomes more professional and riders are riding for 2, 3, 4 different teams to make their income, does the actual team atmosphere suffer? How important was it to you guys when you were riding, like you became friends as well as just teammates?
Yeah, it suffers to a degree. Like initially when you're starting out in the sport, you're finding your feet, and you probably have a little bit more of a good time than when you're actually getting somewhere and you're buckling down and training and you know, up the top of the rankings in the world and trying to get into the Grand Prix and things like that. It's sign of the times. Like Hans Nielsen, he never used to. He got more sleep than anybody, I think. He always used to say, the more sleep you get, the better rider you'll be. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, don't know really more what to say on that one.
And Tony obviously achieved so much in the sport as well. Did you ever get the opportunity to ride with him? Or?
Yeah, Ipswich, obviously. Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
And in Sweden, I rode against him. Poland, I rode against him. So, but there's a couple of times where I was riding at his track in Sweden, and we'd rock up at Stockholm Airport, and you know, Tony had given 2 or 3 of us a lift to his track, and there's this big, huge bus pulled up out the front with Ricardson Racing written all over it, and that was luxury traveling to them means at his home track in Sweden. But he was another professional. You know, you look at himself with the bus and the race suits and the world championships he won, and you know, him and Wiggy, they both go hand in hand, I think, at professionally setting the mark for the sport.
We'll go to your number 6 then, and we're back in your homeland for this one, a former World Team Cup winner. Who do you have at number 6?
He was probably my idol growing up as a kid through juniors and stuff. He only lived interstate in Victoria, Mildura, where a lot of great riders have come from, and I guess I've answered the question there, is in the riders, Mr. Phil Crump.
What was so special about Phil that made you want to put him into the team?
Obviously, as a kid growing up, I would see him ride pretty much every weekend or every second weekend. So I tend to look up to him from that respect. He was always, I think his nickname back in the day was the Animal. He was a hard physical rider, and he was probably the best rider ever to compete in the Ipswich 16 lapper. Crumpy could probably do 32 laps knowing him. I remember seeing him a couple of times in video clips in the 16 lapper, and he was great at that. Member of the Australian World Team Cup squad in 1976. And I think Crumpy was 3rd in the world too, weren't he?
They say, Shane, that you should never meet your idols. As a Speedway idol, as a child, how did that pan out when you actually met Phil?
It was pretty good, actually, because growing up, Phil was in the twilight of his career, and I was just sort of coming up into the senior ranks. I remember one event, Phil was riding in Parramatta in Sydney, and I'd actually broken my leg and jumped in the vehicle with Crumpy, and he took me up to Parramatta to watch the meeting. And he had his mechanic with him, well-known guy in Australia here that not long passed away, as in a guy called Brian Parsons, Hollywood. And also little Jason was with us, and Jason was quite young at the time. And we didn't do the full drive. We stopped at a place called Goulburn, and Phil and Hollywood went to the pub for a couple of beers. So while they did, Jason rubbed a heap of deep heat in Hollywood's bed. Hollywood came back, stripped off, got in his jocks, jumped into the bed, and 5 minutes later, "What are you little bastards done?" And he was awake all night on fire. So no, that was one memory with Phil. It was great. But no, I mean, I've done a few trips with Phil. He never used to like to stop for you to take a toilet break. So you used to normally have to have something that you could go in. Yeah, Phil just wanted to get there and get it done. But on that occasion, we stopped at a hotel. But no, many fond memories of Phil. My idol growing up, obviously, seen him all the time. And look at what his son also went on to do. You know, I could have probably replaced Phil with Jason. I probably should have, 3 world titles. But Phil's a bit of an idol. So that's generally why I picked him, I think.
Must be an Australian thing for the no toilet breaks in the van. I remember going with the Schleins to a wee meeting, and I was like, "Oh, guys, you need to stop." I don't think anybody spoke to me for about 2 hours afterwards. It was pure shame for having to stop. It must be an Australian thing.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, when I was living in Nuneaton, I'd do my Glasgow runs. I wouldn't stop, get the job done.
Okay. Now, it's Super 7, Shane, but at number 7, you have 2 riders. Who are they?
Sean and Kelly Moran.
Now, tell us your stories about these two, because these were a couple of characters as well.
The majority of their stories, I wasn't around in their days. They were just a little bit before my time. I did watch them ride as a young kid, though, and fully admired both their styles, both the tenacity that they had. And, you know, it's a shame that what happened with Kelly. I mean, it's part of life. I think, you know, either one of them could have won a world championship real easy. You know, Sean finished second in 1990, but remember right, he had that taken away from him for some unknown reason. Yeah, no, they were. I'd class Lee Adams in their category too. Probably Dave Jessup. There's 4 guys that probably should have won a world title and never did. But yeah, probably if I had to pick 1 or 2 out of Kelly and Sean, Sean's style, Kelly's style, and probably Sean's attitude to racing.
The perfect combination, you reckon?
Yeah, as far as I can remember, yeah.
Okay, we know that Sean did a record, didn't he, John?
Yeah,
yeah. He
we
released
heard
a
that.
record. Yeah, did you ever fancy releasing a record, Shane?
No. I never did. I never heard Sean's. I also don't know if you remember. There's an Aussie guy called John McNeil. He also released a song. I think it might have been called "I Want to Be Like Ivan Major." Actually, not too sure.
Okay.
You could have been the front man for Barry Campbell's band.
I got up there a couple of times with the old mic in my hand, but yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I enjoy listening to music. I'm not much of a musician myself.
So if you had to, what I was going to say, sorry, before we went on to the captain, you've mentioned a few names, obviously Hans Nielsen, Lee Adams there. How tough is it to pick just 7 out of the guys that you've rode with or even just watched?
I mean, very, very difficult. You look, I've probably got 1 in my team from the modern era, which is Darcy. All the rest are probably, a bit earlier than that. I could have gone back earlier and earlier again, right back to the start, Jack Young. It's difficult. I never seen them ride. I didn't really know them personally. So my team pretty much consists of people that I knew and people I rode with. I could have picked modern riders at the moment, like Safudinoff. I actually love Safudinoff and his style and some of the things he does. It's almost a bit Darcy Ward too, you mentioned there that ride them two had together. I remember watching one just recently of Safudinoff, and he went right round the outside of the fence on that last corner and got the guy over the line, and incredible to watch. It's breathtaking, really.
So your captain then, who would be your captain of your 7 or 8?
Oh, that is so hard. I mean, I would actually say Chris Louis, having been my old captain before at Ipswich, I think he'd done a great job as a captain. So yeah, Chris.
Okay, and it's a last heat decider, Shane. Heat 15. Who do you put out?
Kelly and Sean. No, I can't do that, can I? It's got to be my night. No, I would. I guess there's no question about it. From my point of view, I would have to put Darcy Ward out and Tony Ricardson.
There wouldn't be many would beat that too. What I did forget to ask you, Shane, sorry, you've got that 7 or 8 there. You need someone to hold them all together. Who would be your team manager of this 7?
Our team manager would be one of my old team managers. I only got to ride with him for 1 year, unfortunately, and he was a great team manager, and that is Yorkshireman Eric Bucock.
What made him special, Shane? What made him the one that sticks out in your mind?
I just liked his attitude. He knew how to get the team geared up, and he knew how to approach riders. Every rider's different. And with Eric, he just knew how to approach each rider. And if he didn't, he had it sussed out. By halfway through the season, a quarter of the way, he worked things out. And he was a great team manager. It's yeah. And I think probably after him, I'd choose Praddy. I know they were both joint team managers of Britain at one time. And I think that's probably the best team managers the UK or Great Britain have ever had.
Okay, and who would be your team rider if you had to pick a team rider out of these, someone to shepherd another rider around the track? Which one of them? You've said there's a few great team riders in there, but if you had to pick one.
I would probably say Chris Louis. I'm not going to because I've team rode with him, but one guy that was the great team rider with Mr. Billy Hammer was Greg Hancock. So I would, I'd love to team ride with Greg.
Well, we ask all our guests, Shane, 10 quick fire questions. So we'll just run through them with you very quickly. and see what you've got for us here then. So number one, last time on a Speedway bike.
I think it was the 2014 South Australian state titles where I finished runner-up to Cam Woodward, I think.
Shane, do you have any lucky or favourite helmet colour?
Green. I was green for a lot of years. I love Wiggy's green, and yeah, I still like the green. Which is gate 5 over here. I don't know, in the UK they've gone away from green now, haven't they, again, I think?
Yeah. It's do you have a favourite gate number or a favourite gate to go off?
1 or 4. If there's dirt on the track, 4. You got a bit of a light flicker there. If there's very slick track, I'd prefer gate 1. 2 and 3 are the worst gates going. You're sandwiched in between riders.
Okay. Tea or coffee?
Tea. Never had a coffee in my life.
If you hadn't been a Speedway rider, what would you have been? A horse.
I was a motor mechanic, but I definitely would not have been that. Hard to say. Something sport orientated I would have liked to have thought.
Okay. Do you have a favourite pastime or hobby?
Favourite pastime or hobby? At the moment, it's doing a bit of filming and editing. So just ended up purchasing this new little cinema baby.
Oh,
wow.
Working out how to use that. I've got a few clips up on YouTube at the moment. So if anybody's keen, they won't like my music, but if anybody's keen, it's at Firestarter SP-Design. So check that out if you want. Just rubbish I'm doing now, filming BMX and some bits and pieces over here, keeping me busy.
Excellent. Do you have a favourite film, Shane?
Favourite film? On any Sunday, 1 and 2.
Race suit or race jacket?
Race suit.
What's the worst thing about Speedway?
Rain-offs.
And the best thing about Speedway?
The feeling of winning. It's got to be. That's why we do it. The adrenaline rush and winning.
Okay, so I reckon that your 1 to 7 have a pretty good chance of winning. What are you going to call them? What's the team name?
I guess nowadays the has-beens, hey? I don't know. That's difficult to name a team. I could think about that one for probably an hour and still not come up with a name.
Shane, just to kind of round things off a bit here, it's been brilliant to talk to you. Is there anything, do you miss your racing? Do you miss the Speedway? Obviously, it's been nearly 10 years now since you've raced. Do you miss it?
It was the biggest part of my life, and 22 years of my life. Well, it's more than 22 years. That's just overseas was 22 years. It's wouldn't change it for the world. I completely miss it 100%. So much to the point where I don't even like watching any Speedway now because I miss it so much. So it's when it's been a part of your life for so long, it's you're going to miss it. And I think the biggest thing I miss is the adrenaline rush and the camaraderie you get out of it.
Well, Shane, obviously, John and I booed you quite a lot back in the day when you were riding for Glasgow, and we were there for Edinburgh, but we didn't really mean it. And secretly, we were cheering you as well because there was some spectacular racing. You gave us some amazing moments, some wonderful entertainment, and it's just been an absolute delight to talk to you today, and we're so glad you're here with us still.
Thank you very much. I did enjoy my time riding for Glasgow and racing against you guys. I've pulled a few pranks out of the closet over the time. I remember rocking up there once with a chicken's head on. You called up, we chickened out of a meeting or a rain-off or something happened, and so we all turned up with chicken race jackets and stuff. And there was another time where Edinburgh supporters told me I'd spat the dummy, so I turned up with a big nappy and a big dummy, didn't I? I wore them on the parade, but no, it's all about getting involved with you guys and having fun, and that's what it's. They're the things I remember most about it, really.
I think that's the thing. We talk about, all that sort of stuff, and we can laugh about it, we joke about it, because we know it comes from a good place. We know it comes from, I'm just here to entertain, guys. I just want to have some fun, ride my bike, make everyone go up the road knowing that they've had a good day as well. Shane, I had the pleasure, but like you say, when you're at Glasgow, we spent most Sundays through watching you. You were an absolute joy to watch, and I'd happily go back and do it all again because you were an absolute entertainer. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a great half hour, 40 minutes talking to you.
Much appreciated. Great words, and thank you very much.
Okay. Well, listen, keep great health, Shane. We'll keep our fingers crossed that's all okay for you, and we'll hopefully speak to you again sometime soon.
Great to chat with you, and see you later, everybody.
Thank you. We'll be back soon with another edition of Super 7. So from Liam and myself, thank you very much for watching.